Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Great Black Speakers Podcast, where we connect through conversation. I am your host, Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers Bureau. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. And today we have a very special guest. We're here with Miss Barbara Jones. And Barbara is the founder and CEO of LILLII RNB Inc. And LILLII RNB is a retail technology system integration firm that works with multi-billion-dollar retailers to integrate their software. And today we're going to be talking about how retail technology is the multi-billion-dollar industry that no one is talking about. So, Barbara, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
All right, no problem. So I'm very interested in this subject. You convinced me that this is something that we need to look into, right before
Yes,
our call. So can you talk about, what it is that you currently do and how you've gotten
sure,
to this point in your career?
sure. I was lucky enough to, once I graduated from college, I have a computer science degree from the University of Texas at Austin. And I was fortunate enough to be recruited by a startup company in Austin, Texas, that was building point of sale systems. And I had been a cashier all through high school and a little bit in college, so I knew exactly what it was and was really excited to join the company. And 4 years after joining, that company was acquired by Oracle. And instead of going to work for Oracle, I decided to use the money I'd gotten from the acquisition to start my own retail technology firm. And I did that, and my first client was Home Depot. So I knew I was on to something when got one of the biggest retailers in the world as a client initially when I started the company. So for the last 7 years, I took that first company that I had. It was called R&B Jones and Associates, and I decided to start training other people to do this type of work. It's a niche field, and so I saw some opportunity to train people, especially Java programmers, to do this work. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years, is building the company, training Java developers in this type of work. And just last 2 years, I've noticed that there's really a shortage of people that look like me that do this type of work. No matter where I go around the world with this, it's a shortage. And so I really wanted to focus on getting more women and minorities into this field. That has been a blessing for me for the last 20 years. And so for the last 2 years, I've been developing a course where I can train Java developers specifically in those categories to do this type of work and get into the field of retail technology.
Got you. So let's talk about, actually, before we even talk about that, let's go deeper into, your story. So you graduated from University of Texas at Austin, right? So UT Austin,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So first, my I guess primary question is, how did you land a big fish like Home Depot as your first client right out of college?
Well, that was, I've been so blessed throughout my career, but when we were acquired by Oracle Corporation, with the startup I was working with, our biggest client at the time was Home Depot. That's one of the reasons I think we got acquired. And so I was one of the first Java programmers for that startup, and my account was the Home Depot account. So I was working with the Home Depot team, for years before the acquisition. And once Oracle bought the company, Home Depot, at the time they didn't really want to work with Oracle specifically, but they loved working with me. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to not go to work for Oracle and start my own company, because I knew that Home Depot was interested in having me come on to work as a consultant for them. And so I decided to take that route. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Started the company, and Home Depot was my first client. So it fell into the relationship that was already formed when I was with the startup company before the acquisition.
I mean, that even leads to another question about you deciding to move and work with a startup company instead of going the traditional route, right? So,
Yes.
like, what year did you start working with the startup company? Roundabout.
It was right when I graduated, so that was 2004.
So
Graduated college.
2004, and it wasn't really cool to be, working with startups in 2004 as it
Oh
is,
no,
compared to
no,
2010, 2011, when Facebook
no.
and other companies started to take off. So what made you decide to go in this different direction? And as you were going in this different direction, what did your family say, about this move that you were doing?
Oh, they thought I was crazy. I had offers from, Lockheed Martin, and Motorola was really big at the time, especially in Austin, one of the top employers. And then I had this little startup that had offered me a position. And for me, since my early 20s, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to work long enough to get the knowledge to go do my own thing. That was just, I don't know where it came from. Nobody in my family really has that type of thinking, but I always wanted to own my own business. I wanted to be my own boss. And so I decided that going to work for the startup would allow me to get the knowledge I needed to start my own company one day, because I could see how they were able to take a startup and grow it. I watched everything. I was a student while I was working for them. I saw how they were acquiring customers. I saw the conferences they would go to. I saw how they were recruiting. I watched the whole process because I knew I wanted to start my own company one day. So for me, I didn't want a 20-year career working for some big corporation. I wanted to start my own company, and I felt that going to work for a startup was the best way for me to learn so that I could do it later. And that's what I've done. I've basically followed that pattern that we did with that startup, and I've done that with my company.
So around that time, were there any groups or any like groups or clubs or organizations that you were involved in that was instrumental in terms of, your pathway to, entrepreneurship?
Well, I was, and this is, probably taboo now, but there was a group called Amway way back in the day, and it was taboo because everybody's like, oh, it's multi-level marketing, and you don't want to do that kind of stuff. So my family was also like, why are you doing this? I was a weird person of the family. But that group was really, I learned a lot with Amway because they really kind of like, put into your head, be an entrepreneur, never work for someone else. You kind of like beat into that. So I had joined them like really early in my 20s. So I was already brainwashed to never want to work for anyone. And so for me, that's kind of the group I hung out with, and was always taught to be an entrepreneur. And then I joined other groups like there's a Black engineering group that I joined. I think it was National Society of Black Engineers, NSBE.
NSBE. Mm-hmm.
Women in IT, Women in Technology, another organization that I joined early on. So, I was in all these groups, and most of them were teaching entrepreneurship, start your own business, do consulting, that type of thing. So early on, in my early 20s, I always wanted to have my own business one day.
One thing that you just mentioned, I guess a couple of minutes ago, really stood out to me in regards to your learning process. You were talking about, while you were working at the startup, you were very observational, I guess, in regards to what they were doing to be successful in terms of,
Yes.
sales, in terms of just, operations, in terms of marketing, client acquisition. And I assume, mixing those observational skills from which you also learned at Amway doing multi-level marketing, it's a great combination. So I wanted to ask you in terms of, I guess, what was your process, or how did you hone your observational skills in terms of being able to observe these types of things and then take those learning points of what you learned and then go about taking action upon what you learned, just by observing?
For me, I'm a student, so that's why I went into computer science because, the best thing for me is just put me in a corner and let me code. And, that I would be in heaven. That's what I love to do. So I'm a student, and I love studying different technologies and different programming languages. So for me, just being that student, I'm one of those type of people that sit back, write down everything. That's what I do all day. I use a tool called Evernote where I write down everything. Everything I'm going to do that day, I put it in the list. And I'm one of those people that gets excited as I check things off my list and hopefully get through the whole list in one day. So while, I was fresh out of college and I'm working for this startup, I would sit down every day and kind of look at how they were building this. How did they, what was some of the moves they made? Like they hired me. I'm the first Java programmer that they hired, and they were able, through my Java programming, to land Home Depot because I wrote a tool for them that Home Depot ended up buying, and that was our first sale to Home Depot. So they hired me as their first Java programmer, and then they built a whole Java practice after they hired me on. I saw how they were, looking strategically for conferences that they can go to to get the word out about the system we were building, which was a point of sale system written in Java. And so I saw the conferences they would go to. And so the marketing, I saw how they prepared for those conferences. So I would write all this stuff down. And then while other people in that startup were taking raises, they tried to give me a raise. I asked for equity. And they were like, wow, okay, yeah, we'll give you equity because that's, cheaper for them than giving me a raise. But for me, I knew that what we were building was, I could see what we were building was going to be huge. We were building the first point of sale system written in Java with, kiosks, which was brand new back then, and touch screens, which was all brand new. So I was like, man, this thing is going to be huge. So I asked for equity versus raises. And so, I was one of the few developers who was not an owner of the company. I was one of the few developers who actually got money at the acquisition because most of them took raises instead of equity. So, all of this learning was because I was in Amway, I was in some of these different groups. So I knew, I had the value to me was equity versus money. And that's what I learned. The value to me was studying how they built this company and sold it for, millions is how much they sold this thing for to Oracle. So I watched all of that and I wrote down the steps. And so once, that acquisition happened, I had pages and pages of notes of what happened over those 4 years. And that's what I used to write out a business plan of this is how I'm going to build my business when I started. And I did that before I even launched the business, went through the scenarios, how much money am I going to need? And so I saved up money in order to launch my consulting firm. And so for me, it was an intentional step-by-step process to get me to my goal. And that was being able to own my own business and have a consulting firm similar to what we built at that startup.
Wonderful,
and I still have
wonderful.
those relationships today. I still, the guy that was our president, he and I are still good friends. He's still one of my mentors. I'm in contact with a lot of people in that startup as mentors for me today.
Man, that's an excellent story. And I want to, after this break, I want to get into more about the opportunity that you have found as it relates to retail technology and how more of our people can, really start to get involved and why they should actually get involved as well. But before we do, just as a reminder for the people just tuning in, I'm here with Barbara Jones, and Barbara is the founder and CEO of LILLII RNB Incorporated. And what LILLII RNB is a retail technology system integration firm that works with multi-billion-dollar retailers to integrate their software. And today we're talking all about how retail technology is the multi-billion-dollar industry that no one is talking about. So if you guys like this video, please go ahead and show us some love by pressing the thumbs up button on YouTube. The more love that you show us, the more love that YouTube's algorithm shows us, and more people will be able to see this video. So actually on the count of three, if everyone could just stop what they're doing and press the thumbs up button, we would really appreciate it. 1, 2, 3, stop what you're doing, press the thumbs up button. We really appreciate you for being here. Make sure that you share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to receive more content like the content that we're producing today with Miss Barbara Jones. So Barbara, let's talk about the opportunity. Let's talk about what's going on in the retail tech space, and why we should be involved. So I guess my first question is, what is the retail tech space, from your perspective, and then talk about what's going on in the industry that you think is prime for people like you and I, to really get in there.
Well, I think a lot of people, we're all shoppers. We all, retail is something we all participate in. Either we're customers or we sell things online or we have physical stores. So everybody kind of knows this retail industry. They may not understand the technology behind it, but they know the industry. And so if you just think about how retail has changed, everything is moving from walking into a store to either buying it online or doing it through your phone. We can pay with clicks now. We have chips on our credit cards now. So all of that is retail technology, is that whole process of buying and selling online, in-store, mobile. Payments is part of it. We've watched how Amazon has really transcended this whole industry with being able to allow people to buy things and get it in an hour. They're doing a lot of creative things. Walk in the store after you've already pre-ordered and pick it up out of a box. what you pre-order, someone did the shopping for you. So all of this is retail technology. Technology enables all of these new things that are happening in the retail space, and retailers are scrambling to get to innovate and to really transform their stores into the stores of the future. So the demand for people who know how to do these system integrations, especially with the retailers' software, which is like the bread of life for them, that point of sale software, which is how they interact with their customers, is how they take their payments, is how they feed their back-end systems, is how they do their analytics. That's the point of sale system where you stand every day when you're buying something at that cash register. There's so much software that is happening beyond that register application. And so retail technology is hot right now. And it's a huge shortage of people who know how to, especially programmers, computer programmers, who know how to work in this industry. And so seeing that shortage and being in the industry and seeing that we have a need that we can't even fill, we're in the process now of training and hiring just to keep up with the need. I thought this was the perfect time to really start introducing this industry to women and people of color. And so, that's why I created a training course that will train Java programmers how to work into the retail technology space and learn how to do computer programming for point of sale. And we're looking for Java programmers to take that course. And we're even hiring some of the top people coming out of the courses and doing referral programs for people who take the course. And we may not hire, but we have clients and partners who would love to hire them. So that's what we're doing with our course.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to get into your course, a little bit later as well. Actually, go ahead and drop the link to your course. Can the course be found at your website, or is there another link for the course?
Yeah, it's another link for the course. I'll drop that in.
All right, drop it in here, and I'll go ahead and put it into the live chat so that the audience can see it. And this is for Java programmers. So she's specifically focusing on Java programmers for this particular course. So if you know how to program, Java, this may be a great opportunity to really get into a niche that is expanding. But then, there aren't really that many companies. And Barbara mentioned before, I guess off camera, there aren't that many companies that are really, into the space. I think she mentioned like 10 or so, players, which is really small compared to
small.
Which is really small, but there's a lot of opportunity. And I want to talk about this opportunity a little bit more. So let's talk about in terms of who needs this type of thing, right? So you've talked about these multi-billion-dollar companies that need, integration with their Oracle systems and Java programming and like those different types of things. Is this something? Well, first question, I guess, is what does a typical deal look like then, right? In terms of just numbers, right? So is this something where a company will come in and say, hey, I need you to integrate the system for our 10 stores, and we'll pay you X amount of dollars to do that. And the timeline for that is X amount of months or years. So what does those types of details look like?
Well, most of our projects, hold on, put that link in real quick. So there we go. There's a link. So most of the projects, for us, my company, since we're a consulting firm and system integration firm, we normally have people like me who actually go in and consult to the retailers on these projects. So we'll either go in and lead the project, or we'll go in and do the project, combination of both, help them identify what other solutions they need. So we do a lot of consulting. So for us, if I send, most of these deals are either $150,000 to close to $1 million deals for one particular retailer. They're usually 6 months worth of work to 2 years. That's usually our program size. And so we keep a funnel of these type of projects coming in on a yearly basis. So one new person that I train can be worth, especially them being brand new, they're probably on the lower end of how much we make, but that's already $150,000 just for that one developer. And as they become more experienced, that one person is worth $250,000, $350,000 to the company. So the goal is to have as many consultants as possible that are working with as many retailers as possible. And so it's the opportunity is huge to be able to, for me, to bring people in These developers are making six figures and up, coming to work for us. Some of them right out of training are making close to six figures. So because of the demand, we're able to hire them and still be able to build them out to our clients for a profit. So that tells you the kind of, rates and fees that retailers are paying for this type of work and people that know this type of work.
Got you. So who is also, or let me not ask leading questions in that type of way. So you've mentioned big players, who are, really focused on these point of sale systems, integrating their technology. And then you have some really big startups in the transaction space, like, Shopify, Square.
Exactly.
You have Shopify, you have Square, you have, I guess, Stripe was more of a, I guess, a payment processor, but they do other stuff with, platform integrations and that type of thing. Are there also opportunities for, I guess, mid-cap companies and small businesses as it relates to like these point of sale systems, or are these systems too sophisticated for them to be able to use effectively?
No, they can. I mean, the point of sale software itself touches other pieces besides just the software. There's space for companies, and we're actually looking for companies to partner with that can actually do some of the physical work. Once they get new systems, they may have to, especially for the chip cards that are coming out, they may have to get new terminals that can read these chip cards. So you've seen the little pin pad devices on the cash register desk. Someone has to put those in and install those in stores. There's a lot of retailers are moving towards mobile, so you don't go to a physical register. They may come around with you with a mobile device and check you out. So we still need people to set those type of things up in the store. So there's some physical work that has to be done with physical hardware. There's also software around the POS. So all this data that's collecting, what people are buying, who's buying it, when are they buying it, all this data around these point of sale systems, we need companies that can take this data and do analytics on it. So there's opportunities for analytics companies to come in and integrate with these systems and give data that way. Booking systems, you can think about different retailers that do queuing. Pep Boys, they need to have a queue of people coming in to get their things fixed. So there's software that needs to integrate with the POS for queuing. So the use cases become large when you think about all the different systems that can work with the POS, not only software, but hardware. Printers, you have to be able to print receipts. Scanners, because you can take QR codes now and different things we pop up on our phones. So there's opportunities for, startup companies to come into this field. There's opportunities for, mainstream vendors that already have data analytics software or have people that can go in and do physical installations in a store to come into these systems. So it's enough opportunity for other companies outside of just the Java programmers that I'm looking for.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because when I hear the word retail, right, I'm thinking clothing. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm buying clothes, I'm going to, some store and just purchasing, some new pants, a t-shirt or a shirt, or maybe a suit. I don't know. But then in this conversation, you also mentioned a company like Pep Boys, which is in, is, I guess, auto, right? So
That's
retail.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how are you defining the quote unquote niche or industry of retail? And then, because if you define it big enough, that means that any entrepreneur who knows this type of technology can really niche down specifically on like cars, or niche down on food, or niche down on just a lot of different things as it relates to these, I guess, retail transactions, and create a product that is hyper focused on a certain segment of I guess of the market. So what do you think about that, and what is like your definition of retail?
Okay, so for me, when I was mentioning the niche earlier, is the people who actually know how to integrate the point of sale system. So that to me is the niche, because there's only a handful of people who know that part, the actual integration with the point of sale system itself. How do you put in a Shopify with an Oracle POS system, or how do you take Stripe in this type of system, or a Cash App or PayPal, or all these different things? So the people who do that integration work, that's the niche. The supporting companies, what I call like the supporting applications that may do the data analytics or may do installations or may do inventory management, those companies definitely are out there, and some of them are already big. SAP is is huge for integration. A lot of these retailers do integrate that with their POS. So they may not be as niche as what I'm talking about as far as the point of sale system integration work is the really niche piece of all of this. And so that's where we kind of focus. But there's other things around the POS. It may not be as niche, but definitely areas, if you want to work in retail, that you can get into also outside of just the retail technology at the point of sale that we do.
Got you. And not to sound redundant, and hopefully this is not a redundant question, but maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was watching a video on CNBC on YouTube, and they were talking about like this new way of doing retail as it relates to clothing. And since trends are changing with clothing so quickly, you have stores like H&M that's popped up, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, I think that's the company they were talking about. Some of the brands that they own are making extreme changes to their supply chains to be more, I guess, versatile and to be quicker in responding to what the customer wants, where they will have, quite a bit of, I guess, partially created inventory and then finalize the inventory like much closer to, them seeing, what is selling and what is not selling. And that's very different than what it used to be before, where they used to have, supply chains. They used to plan out what they're going to sell in 2021. They'll start planning it out right now, right? And then start selling it in 2021. So my question to you is, with these changes in supply chain, how is that affecting, what you're doing on the point of sale front in regards to the problems that you're currently facing? And does that lead itself to new opportunities that might be on the horizon that people haven't really captured yet?
Oh yeah, and that's some of the reason that the whole need for these type of resources is really increasing. Is because just what you're talking about is all these new, new ideas, new integrations, new ways that you have to capture millennials and the Gen X's because they're doing everything on their phones or some type of technology that's involved with it. So being able to having them walk into a big box store and walk around all day looking for things is that's obsolete. They they want to know exactly what they're go exactly to where they're trying to get their item or pick it up because someone has already shopped for them at the front. So you have to really start thinking differently about the the millennials and the Gen X's that come into your store or don't come into your store. So there's all kinds of supply chain is huge. Retailers now are able to see or at least know their demand based on, applications we call clienteling, where they'll know just based on what you've been searching for that you're probably going to walk into the store because you were online yesterday looking at this type of item. So they can get that data. And when you walk in the store, they'll know and they can come up to you and say, hey, we noticed you were looking at these type of things. Is this something you're looking to buy? So you can really curate that sale and make it feel personal for that particular shopper like we've never been able to do before. And this is companies that are not just Nordstrom's and Saks, who've kind of been in that, that industry where they cater to people that shop in their store and they kind of know their history. Anyone can get this type of service now with some of the technology and software that's out there. So it just opens up all kinds of huge opportunities, and why this particular field is such a shortage is because the technology is moving so fast. It's not enough people to even do this work. And then ideas are still coming up. I know a startup in Miami, I'm going to give her a shout out. They're creating a gamification that, through games and augmented reality, they can do some things that kind of, target people and move them into going inside to get these virtual rewards. So if you go inside, you'll get a free coffee that you won inside the app. But if you go into the store, and they actually give you a free coffee because you won it in the app through playing some games. So it's all kinds of, cool technologies, innovation that is happening for retail to really attract customers into the store, to have data analytics around the customers, to streamline the whole, process of buying and selling and payments. So all kinds of technology going on around that whole industry. And it's just not enough people to even do the work when you start thinking about all the technology you can do around, retail and sales. So lots of
Wonderful,
opportunity.
wonderful. Yeah, yeah, and just for the people who are just tuning in, we're here talking. I'm here with Barbara Jones. She is the founder and CEO of LILLII RNB Incorporated, and they are a retail technology system integration firm that works with multi-billion-dollar retailers to integrate their software. And today we're talking all about how retail technology is the multi-billion-dollar industry that no one is talking about. So please go ahead and press the thumbs up button, show us some love. Barbara's dropping some great knowledge and talking about the opportunity that most people wouldn't be talking about, right? So she reached out to us
Right.
and wanted to speak about this because she cares about getting more of us into the room and taking advantage of these opportunities. So please show her some love. Please show us some love for bringing you this content. Make sure that you also share and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So, Barbara, in this last segment, I just want to, focus in regards to Black people in this space, right? In regards to, for you, what does the plan look like, to get more Black people into the space? And then also, you talked about your course a little bit before, but if you can go into a little bit more detail in terms of what they will learn, I think that'd be great as well.
All right, cool. So my course is a 4-week immersion course for Java programmers, and usually the ideal candidate has about 1 to 3 years of Java experience. We can take people fresh out of school, fresh out of Java boot camps, or people who are just looking to get into retail technology, but they already know Java. Those are the ideal candidates for the course. So what I've done at this point is marketed the course to groups like Women in IT, Technologists of Color, which is a group out of Atlanta. Women Who Code, another group in Atlanta. And I'm actually in California this week, so I'm looking to find some groups, hopefully in the Oakland area, Java programmers out in California and Oakland, who may be interested in this course. And then, long term, I heard Dr. Boyce Watkins when he was speaking about his travels to Ghana. So, lights went off in my head about maybe taking this internationally to the continent and looking for Java programmers there and having teams in Africa that can do retail technology to support, some of our efforts here. So, I really want to expand this and get it out, to more people. And it's grassroots for now, but hopefully, through programs like yours, we're able to get more people involved so that we can really get this course out and start training people on how to do this type of technology and start filling some of this need that, is just going to keep growing as different technologies integrate or associate themselves with that point of sale system. So that's, more information about our course and what we're doing, but I would love some help. So it would be good to find out if there's other groups I need to be talking to. How can we get the course out to more and more people?
Got you. And I put the course application in the chat, everyone. And it's also in the description section of this video as well for those who are watching this on replay. So yeah, please make sure you check out that course. That leads to, I guess, a couple of different things. One, I do see other opportunities in places like, continents like Africa and Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, like all those different places in regards to not just leveraging the talent that's there to implement these types of systems with, multi-billion-dollar companies in the United States. But I wonder what that looks like to, create, maybe different programs or software or just different things for them to use themselves because of, the continent being, one of the fastest growing, continents, areas, I guess, as it relates to mobile technology and mobile payments, and the like.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that,
that seems like some of the innovation that they're doing, we haven't done yet in the U.S. I know they're doing a lot of. I've heard about whole villages that are able to do, all of their, payments and commerce on their phones using cryptocurrency. So they're even, more advanced than we are. And so being able to work with different developers in the continent of Africa and hearing about some of the advances that they're doing that we haven't even done yet in the U.S., I think would help us out also, because there's some innovation, especially around cryptocurrency and being able to pay with virtual currencies that we're not even doing yet in the U.S. So it's the opportunity to train and learn from some of the things that they're doing that we're not doing yet.
So we've talked a lot about Java programmers on today's call, and I am going to assume that most people on this call are not Java programmers, right?
Hopefully some are, or they know some.
Yeah. Well, but the question that I have is, are there any opportunities in this space for people who don't necessarily know how to code Java in regards to starting businesses in this space that can be successful? So have you seen that happen?
Yeah, I have. And, people, I've talked to a few startups that I know of. Since I live in Atlanta, there's a lot of startups I know are in Atlanta. I visit Miami a lot, so I know startups there as well. And they are doing things outside of just, coders. There's people who are in sales and marketing who are really coming up with, like I said, creative ways to help retailers market and get people in the store. There are people who are more in the hardware field that are, coming up with, different hardware or how to install hardware in these different stores. There are people who are helping on the support side. So they may not be the ones writing the code, but they're helping with training and supporting the stores for, any questions that come up with the software. And then trainers like me, people that are training the retailers, their associates, and even customers on how to use some of this technology. And so there are opportunities for people who are not coders who want to get into retail technology as well. There definitely are opportunities for that as well.
All right. And we have a couple of audience questions. We may have a few more coming in.
Okay.
But Dwayne Lymore wants to know, what about beginners, right? So I guess what if you're, just beginning with Java or something like that? What would you recommend? Would you recommend them like, all right, this course is too advanced for that, so go somewhere else first, and then, come to you, or what?
Right. Yeah, this course is more advanced. So that's why I said we've had some people who had less than 1 year of Java programming experience, and they really, really struggle with the course. So it's more advanced. You do have to have at least 1 to 3 years of Java experience to get through this course. It's 4 weeks, and it's hard. So, but once you come out, you have the knowledge to go in and do this type of work. So what I would say if people are really new or they want to learn Java, they don't know it yet, is there are Java boot camps that are being offered. I know Houston, Atlanta, DC, I believe, have boot camps that are offering scholarships, especially for people of color who want to learn Java. And you can go through, I think there's a more like a 6 to 8 week boot camp where they teach you how to program in Java. That would be a good start for beginners, is to find some of those type of programs. I think Iron Yard has one. Trying to think of Opportunity Hub, I believe, has is another place they can go, and they can Google these terms: Iron Yard Training School and Opportunity Hub. I think is out of Atlanta and DC. So there are opportunities to learn Java and earn a scholarship so that you can learn it affordably. And then there's free tools online. There's a website that I send a lot of people to called Udemy, where you can go and learn how to program Java, like teach yourself. And they have a bunch of video courses. A lot of them are free, and you can learn to program Java that way. And then, once you learn it, you can do, all kinds of projects on your own just to kind of get yourself coding so that you have some experience with the language, even if you haven't, gone to get like a computer science degree. I don't think that's even needed anymore. I think people are coming out of Java boot camps or coming out of some of these boot camp type programs and getting jobs just because it's such a huge shortage of Java programmers. And that's outside of retail technology. It's a huge shortage of Java programmers across the board.
Yeah, actually, that was the next question from Purple Sashes. So she said, would this work for our young black people who know Java but don't have a degree, or who are starting over after a criminal past? I work with young adults. So, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, and that's, a lot of people that I've hired from my company who work for me today, this is their second career. They were not technologists before. They went to like some of the people that I've hired are out of a school called Gwinnett Technical College here in Atlanta, and it's a 2-year college, and so they have a certificate that they've earned over 2 years, associate's degree, I think it is. And they've learned Java and some other languages there, and I've been able to really recruit some really good people out of that school. That's where I get most of my team is from Gwinnett Technical College. So it's a great way to kind of get yourself into a field that I've been doing this for 20 years, and I have to say over my entire career, I've never been where it was, as soon as I would finish a project, more work,
Hold on, Barbara. You're messing. Your phone is messing up a little bit. Hold on. Oh, did we lose you? Did we lose you, Barbara? I think Barbara's signal is fading in and out a little bit. So we may have lost her for a few minutes, but hopefully she'll get back on here in a second. But I really like this interview. And the reason I like this interview is talking about something that is technical, that, is in high demand, and you don't actually need a, I guess, quote unquote, professional degree from a university degree from college or an MBA, or, some type of master's degree or master's program. What I'm finding is that, a lot of companies now don't really care about that type of stuff. Like you have some of the old, stodgy, I guess, types of company, more traditional type of companies who are still asking for that 4-year degree. But then you have a lot of companies, especially in the tech space and also in the financial space, like Wall Street, that don't care at all in regards to what degree you have, as long as you are able to do the work effectively. And I think that's the way the world is moving to. And I think that, as a community, we really need to start, keeping up with that. Because, that's what's really going to matter is, do you have some type of trade? And then with that trade, though, not necessarily joining some type of union or, working for a large company, which you truly can do. But how do you combine that particular skill of this intense trade, or like this deep knowledge in a certain industry? And how do you combine that with the skills of entrepreneurship and small business and entrepreneurship creation? So it's like combining those two things in terms of deep expertise in a particular area and combining that with the general principles and, the necessary things that you need to actually, create these systems, these monetary systems for yourself, create these businesses for yourself. I think that is strategy that we need to follow as the Black community, moving forward. And so Barbara is, touching on this in like a niche that most people would never even think about as it relates to, I guess, the retail space, right? Point of sale integration for multi-billion-dollar companies in the retail space. That is just a niche that is a full potential and not a lot of competition. So if you have the technical know-how and mixing that with opportunity creation, which comes through entrepreneurship, I think that is the winning formula. So I'm also going to put Barbara's link in here. LILLII RNB. So I'll go ahead and drop that into chat as well if you guys want to check out her company. Earlier in the chat, I put the course application. So I'll make sure I'll drop that link in here, one more time. It doesn't look like she's going to be able to come back on right now. The last question that I always ask is, what is her best piece of advice? But I think she dropped enough knowledge, today where you can go back and re-listen to this interview and get a comprehensive view of, what she actually recommends as well. So before you get out of here, please make sure that you press the thumbs up button, show us some love. As I said before, the more love that you show us, the more love that YouTube's algorithm shows us, and more people in our community will be able to receive this type of knowledge to help them financially to achieve freedom, to achieve legacy, and also to achieve additional stability and safety financially and economically for the future as well. So on behalf of the Black Business School and Boyce Watkins Enterprises, my name is Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. You guys take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye.